Hello, everybody. Thank you. Happy Friday, Friday. How is everybody doing? If can you hear?
Happy Friday.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us again on another interesting week in generative AI. I'm here with Billowall, Taylor, Linus, and Matt on the panel. Thank you guys so much. I do have to pass out. I think, does everybody have mics now? Good to go. Okay. Thank you all for coming here to spend some time with us to go over what the latest news is and just try to catch everybody up on different things that we're going to talk about today. And I appreciate you all coming. So please, if anybody, when you're using can you give us some emojis just so we'll know what's happening? And if things are resonating with you, I appreciate that. Thank you. And the emojis are located down where that heart is on the lower right hand corner of your screens on your phones. I don't think you can do it from a desktop or a laptop, but you can definitely do it for the on your phone. So thank you very much. Please go into the chat, the comments, and go ahead and have some conversations there. And I appreciate just put questions or things like that, or if you have any information, any products or something that you want to drop in there, go ahead and do that. And then look and see if you see somebody asking a question and you know the answer, please feel free to go in there and engage and answer that so we can all communicate, because it's hard for us all to know what's going on at any one given time. Some people might have more information than others. So I appreciate that. And hopefully you'll get to learn something and find someone new to follow. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of very interesting people in this room. So thank you all. I wanted to pass it over to Billowall. And oh, before I forget, I apologize for the mics when we have people. If you're trying to speak, if you have something that you wanted to say, send me a DM me, or if you request the mic. As long as it's on topic, we're trying to accommodate people. If we know kind of who you are and what you're going to talk about, we don't want it to get too long winded with some of these topics. But please feel free to speak up, raise your hand, or something like that if we're trying to if we're passing the mics out. There's a limited number of mics, so I might have to take mics from people to pass them around depending on what we're talking about. I just wanted to warn, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I'd appreciate everybody's patience with that. Thank you so much. So Billabong, you want to start off
All right.
with?
Let's go. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy
Yeah.
Friday. I think we're ready for another jam-packed week, and this is going to be our human attempt to summarize what has actually transpired. So let's say how we do with that. We got three planned topics on the docket today. We're going to be talking about Amazon Bedrock entering the fold of generative AI. They've been awfully quiet, not quiet anymore. So we'll start off with that. Then we're going to jump into a little bit about Roblox and how they're thinking about generative AI and like the 3D creation ecosystem. It's just such an interesting case study of how this vertically integrated platform is playing around with generative to create, honestly, like I had no idea they had like 9.5 million creators. And now it turns out they actually just announced an updated stat with 11.5 million creators, which is amazing. And then finally, the hottest topic, it's everywhere. It's on the news, AutoGPT, baby GPT, all the variations of these GPT, kind of recursive agents. We'll deep dive into that, and we'll hear a lot more from folks like Linus and Matt that have been playing around with this stuff as well. So that's what's on the docket, and we will get things started with Amazon. So today, I'm going to try my attempt at doing laying the land, and then I'll hand it off to the panelists for giving their thoughts and opinions on what's going on here. So, Amazon Bedrock. What the hell is Bedrock? All right, so Amazon Bedrock is a new service for building and scaling generative AI applications. So, if you want to make a generative AI application that can, generate text, images, audio, synthetic data in response to prompts, Amazon Bedrock is the go-to offering to do that, according to them. It gives customers access to these large foundational models, right? Like these massive models, such as, of course, you've got Stability with Stable Diffusion. You've also got Anthropic on there with Claude, and then a couple of their own models. Like I had no idea, but they actually have their own like code assist model, similar to GitHub Copilot, of course, as well. And so the benefit is, if you're a company that's building, digital products, websites, what have you, you're probably on AWS already. And now you've got a very easy access to these foundational models and all the other things you can do with that. So, a suite of tools for training your data, for fine tuning your data, deploying it and running it at scale. All of that is now going to be encapsulated in this AWS, freaking Bedrock offering. And Bedrock is the right word, right? It's like the bedrock and the foundation, and then you can build experiences on top of it. So, super exciting stuff if you want to use your own private data. You want to play around with public models and quickly get something out there. It's going to be very attractive to AWS customers and maybe even attract new customers. Because guess what? You want to play with GPT-4? Got to go to Azure, got to go to Microsoft, right? Like they've got a nice relationship going there. So this will be a really awesome opportunity for smaller startups like Anthropic to get distribution as well. So that's the lay of the land. I would love to now open it up to Linus, Matt, Taylor, Heather to chime in with their thoughts on Amazon entering the fold.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like Amazon. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about NVIDIA Foundation, right? And NVIDIA Foundation was NVIDIA opening up all of these cloud compute servers for other people to build on top of and to develop their own proprietary large language models. To me, this sounds a lot like Amazon saying, yeah, we're doing that now too. Now, obviously, I don't think this is directly in response to NVIDIA, because obviously Amazon's probably been working on this for a while now, but it sounds like a very similar concept to me, where they're basically saying, look, we've got all of this compute power over here at AWS. AI is the hottest thing right now. AI is where all of the businesses are moving. So let's go ahead and open up some of these servers and let people use the servers for that as well. So I do feel like this is very similar to what we're seeing with the NVIDIA foundations. And another thing that I find very interesting is that their, I think it's called Code Whisperer, is their code assistant that they put out, and it sounds very similar to the GitHub Copilot, but it's free. They're saying you can just use this. You can have it. It's free. Go ahead and play with this. Use it to build on top of AWS, which it puts things like Copilot in a very interesting position now, because Amazon's just saying, here, you can have this. It's free. Go use it. So those are my quick thoughts, but would love to hear from, it looked like Heather was about to chime in. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to her.
Well, no, I was just trying to fill in some space there. I really don't know much about it, honestly. I just kind of started noticing the headlines yesterday, so I wanted to see who else had some information about it, because I can't speak intelligently about it. Taylor?
Well, I was wondering if
Yes.
someone could clarify like Amazon Titan as well, because I don't know for sure. So someone might need to fact check me on this, but Amazon Bedrock being like the service and Amazon Titan being the content side of it, I guess. If anyone has any like clarity on what Titan is versus Bedrock, I would love to hear it, because I'm in the same boat as you, Heather.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon Titan is basically their foundational model, right? So they're like, hey, we're a marketplace. You can play around with Anthropic stuff, stability stuff. But if you want something, for different applications, like, similar things you do with GPT, it's like Titan Text, it's like just a large language model and is really good at all the same things that you want to do with, GPT-4, for example, summarization, text generation, classification, all that good stuff. And I wonder how long they've had it. I haven't looked in deeply into it, but I have to imagine, like, this is something Amazon's probably using, as a part of their own, like, consumer facing products or marketplace products on the more the retail and, online shopping side. But yeah, it's just another LLM, and now people have a plurality of LLMs to play with. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this like pans out in the future. Like, is it going to end up like, I don't know, iOS and Android, where there's like two big ones that everyone uses, and then like, the rest like don't really matter? Like, who knows? But right now, everyone wants to not only be a platform, but also have a horse in the race. So that's what you kind of see happening.
Hey everyone, Chris McKay from Imaginative. If I could just chime in, can everybody hear me? By the way.
Yep, great.
Okay,
Yeah, go
awesome.
for it.
I wanted to just add, I think the most impressive thing about their announcement this week was what they didn't announce. I mean, given the fact that Amazon had like years of head start with Alexa, and for them not to announce some sort of assistant or chatbot where you could leverage that underlying technology, that says a lot. I think it's going to be interesting to watch the rest of the year to see from Google and Apple with Siri and Amazon what ends up happening with their personal assistant. It seems Amazon is taking the route of providing the service on the back end for these AI models rather than trying to lead in with like an AI chatbot slash personal assistant of their own, which I think would be really interesting for the future of Alexa.
That is such a good point. Can I ask you, Chris, like, what is your pontification on why they're taking that platform route, right? Because you're totally right. It's like, hey, go build chatbots. We'll help you build it, but we're not going to sort of put our name behind, something like Bard. Do you think it's like sort of like the PR kerfuffles that the various chatbots have been dealing with? What's your
Sure,
thesis?
I have two. I think the first is that Alexa probably wasn't as profitable for them as a platform over the last few years. I think they went head first. They released a bunch of Alexa products for like the home, but I don't think they saw the returns or the traction that they were expecting. And the second is I also don't think they're up to speed in terms of the quality that you're seeing with like a Google Bard or an OpenAI ChatGPT. I think Apple and Alexa with Siri were probably caught flat-footed in terms of just how advanced ChatGPT was. Even Google to some extent. Google is playing catch up really quickly, but I think they're going to be hesitant to put out a product because they're going to be compared directly with ChatGPT and Bard, and until they can probably play at that level, they're going to be really hesitant to do that.
Really good, really good points. Mintz, jump in here. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say as well, less so from the LLM side, but just sort of in general from an AI side. And sorry, I'm walking like in the city, so if you hear any outside noises, my apologies. I think that AWS has really positioned themselves, obviously, as a really bolstered cloud, and it would undermine their relationships with a number of their actual customers if they started to compete directly with them.
That's a good point too. But these large companies always have that type of relationship. On one hand, they're a platform provider. On the other hand, they're competing. I mean, a good case in point is, Snapchat. Like a bunch of their like cloud provider, like a majority of their cloud backend is all GCS, right? Like Google Cloud Services, and then of course there's also YouTube. And so, it's that's not totally unconventional. I am curious though. From a scenario standpoint, like, how are y'all thinking about, like, again, they're saying you can now like fine tune models, like, or they're going to make it easy if you wanted to do tasks like fine tuning Stable Diffusion. Of course, it sounds more like targeted developers, whereas y'all are actually going to the end user. Is this going to make it easier for y'all to build stuff, or like sort of? Yeah, I'm kind of curious if you had any thoughts about that.
Well, I'm not on the dev side, so it's a little hard for me to say from like a technical standpoint how much easier it would be. But from a standpoint of making it easier, I think that people often miss the intuitive / learned aspect of fine tuning. And I work as a Dream Boost fine tuner, but fine tuning is a huge field, and it's not just smaller Dream Boost models. It can be what looks to a typical person like building a model from the ground up, but really, in fact, it's a fine tune. And so I think that there is a piece in that is a little misleading when we think of ease of use, because ease of use is oftentimes in that statement assuming you know what you're doing. And that's the piece that I haven't seen yet, what their system is exactly. My guess, just based on their clients and what I know about their relationships with other companies, is they're probably gearing it towards professional fine tuners. And that would mean that these are what most people typically would think of as like ML operations or ML researchers, and someone who like probably even myself would struggle with some of these higher level fine tuning feats, because for us it looks like a foundational model, but it's not. Its architecture is based on someone else's.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So you're totally right. I think if nothing else, the impact of, sort of the NVIDIA offering that Matt alluded to as well. And this is like, we'll see far more proliferation of just generative AI in a bunch of existing products. And perhaps it'll be the barrier to start building this type of stuff and deploying it even at scale is gonna go down. And I think it brings the question of, with I would say pretty vocal group of people saying, "Oh my God, we're moving too fast on generative stuff. It's permeating everything." Like, this ain't gonna help that. That's for sure. So, like, let's see if this is gonna be good or bad. Linus, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you think about Amazon entering the fold, and any perspectives as you're a product builder yourself, and yeah, be curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you again for giving me the mic. What I'm intrigued about is this. What we're seeing this unfolding very fast, and what I kind of like now is the race to zero cost. I didn't expect this to happen so fast, but if you look at like what everyone's been saying, from OpenAI to Google, it's like we're at the race to get to intelligence near zero in terms of cost. And with with Amazon entering with Code Whisper, for example, and just giving it away for free, we're just seeing like that playing out in real time, essentially. I'm super excited about that, but obviously it was also a bit weighted that they had to do something to kind of get some people to move over from Copilot. So 1 million users already on Copilot, if I'm not mistaken. And then in terms of offering the services, I think it makes sense on AWS to have a cluster of these things there as well. And I think the only one laughing more than me right now is Jensen Huang, selling even more NVIDIA hardware to Amazon. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it's good that we get more options. As a builder, of course, like the tooling is always important, and I think like being able to pick your platform, and I mean, if you're happy with one platform and they don't offer the things that you're looking for, then you might be sad about that. But now I think more people can be happy if they enjoy being on Amazon and working with AWS and having the ability to use these things natively on AWS. So yeah, excited.
Oh God, the Jensen point just gets me every time. Like, I'll stop making my 60 leather jackets per second joke, but I'm probably not going to stop. But it's just like in any future, Jensen's crushing it. I'll pin that meme that was going around where it's like people sort of beefing with OpenAI, and that there's just like Jensen eating a meal, watching on the phone on the side.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, Mint, we go for it. You don't need to raise your hand. It's all good.
Okay, I just wanted to ask one other thing, or like share one other point, and sort of put it out to the group that relates to this. I was talking recently about this ongoing conversation about the data set, and it refers to stable diffusion, but also like most of the different AI models we're looking at, there's ethics conversations, et cetera, and there's shifts in how people are approaching it. But we hear, you'd mentioned fine tuning before, and a lot of the models we're seeing that are supposed to be, brand new models may very well have been built on an existing architecture, which would have been built on a data set that is under, conversation right now. And I guess it brings up the age-old question of, if you replace all of the planks in a ship, is it a new ship? Like, that's something I've been sort of musing over, and I'm curious what other people think.
Yeah, it's the ship of Theseus question, right? Like, if you replaced all the pieces, yeah, it's yeah, I don't immediately have a reaction to that. Anyone else on the stage?
No.
No,
You can go ahead, Linus.
yeah, I was just saying, I don't think I don't have a strong opinion here, so I don't have a good reaction.
I
It's
don't
a tough
know.
question. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what is important is data provenance is going to become more of a conversation. And I think, like, Mint brought up that point nicely in the session last Friday or the Friday before that. And yeah, it's like now we have a more visceral, visible reason to talk about these type of data sets, especially the imagery data sets. Whereas, like, again, I still feel like people just don't care about like text data for some reason. They're just like, oh yeah, my blog's got scraped, whatever. But yeah, like the image, yeah, it's interesting. Text was maybe commodity, imagery isn't. Is that going to change? I don't know. It's like, yeah. So yeah. To summarize, yeah, like it's a tough question indeed. So All right. Well, unless there are
I,
any other. Oh yeah, Chris,
I,
you got some thoughts here? Please jump in. Yeah.
Sure. I wanted to just ask another question. I'm curious to find just a general poll among builders. How many builders are interested in models outside of GPT right now? Because obviously Google has offered PAM APIs earlier this year. So I'm just curious how many people are actually interested in using models outside of GPT and would be kind of thinking of building on top of AWS.
Me.
And is there a particular reason why right now? Is it just like, hey, I'm opposed to what OpenAI is doing, or you think it's a better model that's available?
Oh no, it's just much more practical for me. We look at these large models like GPT-4 and stuff like that, and they're great from a large model perspective, but from a fine-tuning perspective, they're unwieldy. They are intelligent to the point of hallucinating. They become a liability for companies. We've had this conversation a lot in the last few weeks, and the reality is that it's either you have to really tune them to the point where it's sort of doesn't make sense, or on the flip side, you have a model that might say anything to your customers.
Got it. Got it.
Hold on. We just gave the mic I'm sorry. I lost somebody here. 1 second. I'm trying. Let's see. Krish. Is Krish still there? Krish.
I am
Not
still here.
Chris, but there was
Oh,
another Krish with a K. They disappeared for a second.
Yeah, Chris, can you re-request your mic if you want to hop on, and if you have anything to add here?
And Generator Man, Generator Man. I'm not sure if you had. I think you had something you wanted to say. Is it if it's related on this topic? Go ahead. I'll go ahead and give you the mic. Okay, for a minute. Okay, sorry for all the dead space, but okay, go ahead, Generator Man.
Um, Sorry, I was going to say something, but I lost my train of thought. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll just jump back in if I remember. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
We need like some generative AI chatbot to fill in all the dead space, right? It just comes up
Right.
with like.
Yeah. We're sounding like bad hosts here. So I'm losing people and trying to figure out where they're at. But I guess we can go ahead and move on to the next topic if you want, because
Yeah,
I don't see Krish back here.
Yeah, let's move on to Roblox, and then we'll save the majority of the time for AutoGPT. That's actually one thing I'm excited to learn about too, because yeah, it's been a while. All right, so let me just pin this post very quickly. All right, so I would like to talk a little bit about what Roblox is doing in this space. We don't talk about them too much, honestly, even in the 3D space, because everyone kind of writes them off as, oh, that's for kids, right? Like, yeah, that's kind of the reaction people have, or like, if you're a parent, you're probably getting like harassed by your kid for some Robux, and that's like probably the extent of your understanding. But I pinned this post here basically that deep dives into what Roblox is doing or aiming to do, which is to be sort of like the YouTube of 3D. And of course, Epic is in the play too. We can maybe talk about them if people have questions, but to focus on Roblox here, they are already the world's largest UGC 3D platform. That is to say, a majority, if not all, the experiences that are played on a daily basis are made by other developers, other users, right? And so, like, what an interesting platform where they've got like over 200 million monthly active users that are building 3D worlds, playing stuff, sharing and monetizing things, right? Like, that's absolutely wild. What's interesting though is like it is completely full stack, right? So they built their own proprietary 3D engine, and then for the past couple of years they've been upgrading it constantly in terms of fidelity. So I was blown away. If you go see the third tweet that's in the thread, it's like this FPS shooter, and I was just like, wait, somebody made like a Call of Duty clone and it looks like this, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a bunch of indie devs that did this. Like, that's absolutely mind-blowing, right? But if you think about it, the problem with 3D creation is still like the barriers even higher, right? Like, if image generation like has sort of like shattered the barrier to entry where you don't necessarily have to learn, like, I don't know, Photoshop, Procreate, After Effects, insert whatever visual creation tool of choice, the barrier for 3D has always been even higher, right? So the fact that they've got this engine, they're super excited about generative AI on a couple different fronts. What they're starting with right now is like, hey, we want to make it super easy for you to make AI materials. So if you're familiar with, like, a big part of doing 3D stuff is you model an asset, then you need to texture it before you animate it, rig it, and then imbue it with an interactivity. So the pieces they've chewed off right now are, number one, making it easy to like customize your assets with these like textures and shaders. And then it does like all the hard work for you. So you literally type in a text prompt like red paints, brush metal with diamond plate, etc., and it'll create not just the albedo texture, but also like the normal maps and all the other stuff that you need to create these like super realistic shaders that look good as you like move around and view it from different directions. So that's one piece. The other piece is like coding is hard. So Roblox is all based on this language called Lua. And so, like, just like GitHub Copilot we were talking about, and like Amazon's new offering, let's say you want to imbue this car that you've like modeled and then textured using their tool, let's say with interactivity, like the light should turn on, you should be able to honk the horn, it should be able to like drive around, maybe you want it to fly. You can just type in text prompts and it kind of does that for you, which is also amazing, right? So, like, suddenly a creator that might have been super daunted with like, hey, I can only stick to creating my assets like, in isolation, maybe styling them. Now you suddenly have the ability to start like making interactivity accessible to a developer. And then, of course, like if you're already a developer, now you can just 10x your output, right? And be even more ambitious. So it's super cool. And since we are talking about data provenance, they've at least explicitly said that the code autocomplete model is trained on no private developer data and only uses public marketplace assets. So this is similar to what GitHub is doing with public repos, right? As far as the texture generation goes, it's not quite clear. They haven't made an explicit statement on, what foundational model that's based on, if it's something they train themselves. But overall, they seem to be taking a similar approach to, GitHub and Microsoft on one hand, and then certainly Adobe maybe on the image side. Who knows if that's actually what's happening. So that's what they're doing now. Just to wrap up, where they're taking this is like, obviously, text to 3D is going to be the next step, right? Like right now, they're just using search. They've got this like semantic search. So if you're like, they've got this massive marketplace of assets. If you're building a world, you want to kit bash things together, you can just use natural language to look for certain types of assets, and it'll pull up the right, a marketplace listing, even if those terms weren't like directly mentioned. That's where they're starting here. But I have to imagine the next step here is like, let's make it easier to create 3D assets themselves and let people do that within the experience, right? So now you don't even have to be a developer. If you're customizing your avatar, suddenly you don't have to deal with the whole like build a bear, let me just choose like some permutation combination of canned things. You can really start expressing yourself far more like, expressively, for the lack of a better word, when text to 3D gets democratized. So they've got such an interesting foundation here, and the fact that it's already UGC first, I think is going to be very interesting to see how generative AI sort of, if it can help them sort of shatter the barrier to creation, just like TikTok did with short form video and created this massive flywheel that we talk about today. So that's a little bit about what Roblox is doing in generative AI. I know Matt made a video about this as well, and just the broader gaming landscape. Maybe you have some thoughts, and of course, other folks on the stage, feel free to chime in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it's fascinating. One of the things that I find very interesting, and I actually made a tweet about this yesterday, is whenever I talk about something like game development or movie production or anything like that, it always fascinates me that people in that space always want to say like, oh, we're nowhere near the disruption that you guys are claiming that we're close to, right? And when I've made 2 or 3 videos now about developing games using AI, and every single time I've made a video about developing games using AI, I get comments about how, oh, they'll never be able to replace us. People won't be able to make games. There's more that goes into game development than just just creating assets. But when I watched the stuff that you posted in your Twitter thread about what Roblox is doing, I don't know. I think these people are in for a lot bigger of a disruption than they realize. but yeah, I think I've personally never used Roblox in my life. I'm going to get it and start to play with it because I want to test some of this stuff. But it's not something I've ever had any experience with. I've always thought I've thought of Roblox as kind of like, the next iteration of like Minecraft or something like that. That's kind of how I've always seen Roblox. But then when I saw what you were sharing, I went, holy shit, this is next level. This is something completely different than what I thought Roblox was capable of, especially that sort of Call of Duty style shooter game. That was just absolutely mind-blowing. But yeah, I mean, one thing I'm real interested in is, are we going to be able to import our own assets into Roblox, or are we going to be confined to what's already available in Roblox? Like if I want to go and create nerfs, right? Like we can now import our nerfs into Unreal Engine and develop a game inside of Unreal Engine using the nerfs that we developed. Are we going to be able to do that kind of stuff inside of Roblox and build using their was it Lua code? Like if we can do that, that is going to just be mind blowing what people are going to be able to create with that. Right now, my assumption is that, since they're trying to build it all off of the not open source, but the sort of Creative Commons assets that are available right now, I'm assuming maybe you can't import your own stuff in there because there's potential for abuse and stealing other assets and bringing them in. But if we can start doing our own nerfs and bringing in our own 3D assets that we create and that sort of thing, and actually start to develop on top of that inside of Roblox, I mean, that, in my opinion, that democratizes the hell out of game development. And all of the game developers that are in denial that some of this stuff might be able to do things better than them are in for a rude awakening. But yeah, those are my sort of quick thoughts. But I'll give the floor to some other people here that have their hand raised.
I'm going to have to push back a little bit on that statement, not because I don't think the tools are capable of producing in a very short, in a short amount of time, able to produce really convincing, amazing assets. And I'm going to use Roblox as an example of why I'm pushing back, because if you look at Roblox, it's a perfect example of a company that built something within their own pipeline. And that is the piece that when game developers say it's difficult for you to replace me, that's what they're talking about. They're not talking about the individual assets. They're talking about the pipeline that makes it possible to take a story all the way through to completion. And we definitely are seeing that come together. I think it is kind of inevitable, but I don't feel quite as, as someone who talks to game developers all day, and I'm sure you guys do as well, like I don't see it being quite as quick as it sounds. Again, not because of the technology, but because of how custom each one of those experiences would need to be. Either everyone's going to need to redirect their attention to Roblox style, they'll need to adjust to something that is voxel art world specific or similar, or they're going to have to wait until the pipeline is able to have these elements installed, which we're certainly working on at Scenario, but it's that pipeline that slows everything down. The thing about Roblox that I'm noticing, and you're saying like, can we upload content? I'm guessing that's going to be difficult, or it will take some time. I could be totally wrong, but my guess is the reason they're able to move so quickly on that is indeed because they have so much data and information, and it fits their art style and their world. And that is much easier to train in such a consistent way than training the entire concept of 3D into one solid foundation.
I think you're both right. And if I may just interject, and then I'll hand it to Chris and Linus, is, it's like, first off, like, to the whole point about like, is this going to absolutely disrupt the workflow? I think it's going to disrupt the workflow in different ways, right? I think like the thing Roblox is doing, it's opening up game development and creating of interactive experiences to a whole new class of users. The users that like, and creators that are already using sophisticated tools and know their stuff are like gonna think this is like absolute junior varsity crap and like, what the hell is this? And I mean, like a good case in point is the reaction to Wonder Dynamics and Wonder Studio. I posted the same exact result on like the Stable Diffusion Reddit and then the VFX subreddit. got very contrasting opinions on it. And I think like it's like, yeah, like if you're a freaking After Effects wizard or like a nuke artist, like okay, you're in nuke, you're working on feature films. Yeah, you're not going to find like some crude in painting and like a full body pose estimation and like crude relighting to be like, oh yeah, this is not going to replace you. But that's not the point. It's more of like, I think like the descript or descript model, I can never figure out how to say that, which is, hey, like there's a whole class of people that want to edit videos. They don't want to learn Premiere and After Effects, or they want to have to learn Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, or Final Cut Pro, or Avid. Avid is still freaking used in the industry for a lot of feature films. Like instead, hey, I know docs and I know how to make slideshows. So I'm going to use Descript, which takes that paradigm on and makes it accessible. So I think like this is just going to make it so like kind of like the TikTokification is the only analogy I have, which is like a TikTok video creator doesn't replace a YouTube video. Like a YouTube video requires you to put a lot more time and effort into it. By that, I mean like a classic 10-minute type long form video, but it opens it up to a whole new class of users. And I think that can create interesting flywheels in itself. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And just to wrap up, I think the whole moderation of 3D is going to be a big problem we all have to contend with. Like one of the other in quotes UGC 3D platforms out there is VR Chat, and they deal with this problem all the time, which is like it's just like how are you going to moderate 3D assets and make sure like yeah, there's this approval process, then people get clever and they try to work around it. And if we thought like large scale video platforms have a hard time moderating like just video content or photo content, like 3D is like an order of magnitude level in complexity. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So with that, let me hand it over to Chris and then Linus.
Thank you. All right, so much to unpack here. I'll start with the moderating of 3D content. I think this is where you'll likely see an intersection of technologies like blockchain, where it will likely be super easy to be able to track origin and authenticity within a framework like Roblox. So I think there are solutions that we'll be able to explore. One of the interesting things, I'd written an article a couple weeks ago, and I shared some links in the chat to the Roblox blog, where the CEO had some comments, and they were talking about their vision for the future and this idea that they want every user to be a creator. And it's really powerful, and it's a massive vision. But I think the context to also consider is that a lot of people using Roblox are kids, and empowering them to be able to create. They're definitely not going to be using any sort of sophisticated creative tools. But having kids of my own and watching them play Roblox, and I'm like, how can you even find this interesting? Like, as you're saying, I think of it like one level above Minecraft, and I'm like, you have so many more advanced games out there. Why are you so interested in this? But I watch them, and they get so involved and intrigued by the process of creating and being a part of this ecosystem. And as an aside, I'll say probably Roblox is the closest thing we have right now to a metaverse. And what they're building is pretty interesting. But the CEO spoke about opening it up to third-party AI creation services and tools. So I think they do have this ambition to allow for this ecosystem where you could come in with your own assets and integrate it into their universe. So overall, I think the links that I shared, hopefully they can add a little bit more color to the conversation. But I'm excited about what they're doing. I think they're super ambitious. Along with Epic, they have an opportunity to just kind of rethink and redefine what gaming means for the next generation, and maybe things beyond gaming, because I think as they start building out their universe, it won't just be about gaming anymore. It will just be about experiences and how you can do that within that space.
Extremely well said. Yeah. And I think they are trying to grow up with their audience too, right? And shed that younger kid reputation too. Linus, jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things, as Chris said, I want to unpack. So, like, I think in terms of the moderation, you can upload your own assets right now, right? Both meshes, audio, images, and it goes through the moderation pipeline. There are, I guess, like a few million objects that have been moderated so far. So I wouldn't say like they're not good at moderating that pipeline, but I mean, that will just increase in complexity once it gets even bigger. But I mean, you can use your own stuff in there if you want to. And then, I mean, what we're talking about Roblox, and then I keep hearing that we're just like it's a very specific style and look. And I think that was completely um, what I thought as well up until like a month ago or a month and a half ago when I saw Frontlines for the first time. And for those who haven't seen Frontlines, I think I just pinned a message to the top here that I tweeted about in early March, and I think it was in your thread as well, Billowall. It's essentially like Call of Duty style-esque game made completely in Roblox, and it just shows that the engine is very capable of producing. I wouldn't say maybe AAA. Let's just put it like really high end output that's not like stylized and voxel based or pixel based. Um, I think when people, I posted this on LinkedIn a month ago, and people went nuts because like everyone, my age, I'm 30, 35 plus, and all that we see is like kids playing with Roblox, and we're just seeing the pixelated art, like the kind of Minecraft 2.0. But it's so much more than that. And also in terms of gaming, it's not just about gaming. I mean, Roblox is just a massive community when it comes to just experiences, and people are doing all sorts of weird things in there. And if I go to my local grocery store, there are like 10 paper magazines about Roblox that I can buy that comes out every month. So it's just crazy the kind of community that Roblox have. So it's just mind-blowingly big. And then you touched on metaverse, Chris, and I think if we're looking at so Epic Games and Roblox side by side, I think both of them are going for this. Like that's their end goal. They want to kind of be the facto 3D platform, and I think it's good that we have two big platforms going side by side. It will just give users something to pick from. But it's nice to have duality. I hope there will be more players, but as it looks now, those two are going to be the biggest one. And then lastly, I want to just quickly pin in and chime in on the fact that like game devs or game designers, I have two neighbors, they're both game designers, or one is a producer and the other one is a designer, motion graphic designer and game animator. And last week I met with them and a few of their colleagues, and they're all kind of like echoing the same sentiment that I'm seeing in common fields all over the internet when it comes to game developers, that they're pushing back hard. And I think Mint said it in a good way, where like they're pushing back because of the pipeline. It's hard to replace them in the pipeline. But I think it's also like a dangerous position to put yourself in, to think that I'm not going to be replaced. It's not about the replacement stuff. It's more about trying to realize that these are tools that are there to make you more creative, to work on the things that you like more, and not do the boring stuff. But it's a very difficult discussion to have, also in person. Like you could clearly see that they were really annoyed with the whole thing, and they didn't want to talk about AI. And one of the visual artists, she was like, why would I care about this? I love drawing, so why would I want AI to take that away from me? And I'm like, it's not about you not being able to draw. It's about other people being able to help you be better. Because like if other people could come with ideas that maybe don't know how to draw, then you can be the artist in the room and you can interpret that and you can make that better. And now there's just such a high barrier to entry and such a gated community to be within, the fine artists in the game studio. They're just like high up on pedestals, because it takes a lot of time to get good at drawing. It takes a lot of time to be an artist, and I don't think they should be afraid of being replaced by AI. By no means. I think they should be embracing it, because it will lead to them having more work. It will lead to them being even more powerful in the institutions where they work. So those are my notes on this, and I enjoy this part. So thanks for allowing me to speak for a bit.
Always dropping pearls of wisdom, Linus, not just the hammer. All right. Let's. I can't. Mint or Taylor, one of you go, please.
Go ahead, Mint.
I just have a quick comment. I wanted to mention too that it does, like, piggybacking on what Linus said, it does really improve an artist's workflow. And furthermore, they have to recall and remember the fact that IP is not just a picture of a face, it's how that picture is drawn. Like, really high level IP cannot be made by AI, because you can't right now explain such granular micro details, as in like how Pikachu's tail is always pointed. And those are things that it will be able to solve eventually, but people are still not going to trust it to solve that if there's millions of dollars behind it.
I just want to jump in and say I'm not a Roblox player at all. I've never played it, but I've been kind of in the, I don't know, atmosphere. Haven't we all sort of with the media lately? So I just wanted to say that I think that Roblox is where kids are even more advanced than adults in understanding how all of these emerging technologies are affecting us. And I think that, like, you can even see it just through the crypto, the in-game currency, I think it's like Robux or Roblox or something like that, that people are exchanging obviously for like real money. And I think it's the AI component of it just further familiarizes these kids who are now using it in this metaverse capacity, allowing them and enabling them to like scale this in a way that's not done before. I mean, you look on YouTube and there's kids watching other kids create Roblox assets on there. And I think that this just continues to kind of emphasize where it's going. So keep an eye on those kids.
Amen to that.
Just something really funny. Last Christmas, so many of my gifts had to be Robux, and so there was like buying gift cards for like digital currencies to be used in
That's
Roblox.
wild. How does the unboxing work there? Like, is it a virtual unboxing?
No, I mean they don't care. You just they have these gift cards you buy at Target, and you put it in a card, and that's it.
Yeah, but this is such an interesting point. Sorry, your voice went a little T-Pain there, Chris, but I think we got most of it. Which is like kids, there's this whole trendy topic about like the third space, the notion of the third space, which is separate from like usually your home, which is your first place, and then like the workplace or your school, it ends up being your second place. And like, yeah, for a lot of these kids, these like sort of collaborative social 3D environments have sort of become that, where they go hang out after school, right? Like where like, like I'm a millennial, and like so like for me is like take your Xbox and like go to your friend's house, and you like run a freaking long ass like Ethernet cable, and then you like play some freaking four
Some
on
LAN
four. And
parties?
like now this is yes, LAN parties. Oh my god, I feel so old. It's like yeah, it's like exactly. And now it's like just all easily accessible. You can like hop on from like an iOS device, from your computer, what have you. And like yeah, it's amazing that these like experiences are suddenly becoming like these kids are expressing themselves. Like it's the version of like the Finsta and the Insta. I feel like people curated their online profiles on Instagram in a certain way, and now it's sort of become that, right? Like in these 3D worlds. So it is like people talk about in the abstract about like yes, the metaverse, and like we'll all be buying digital goods, and like it's kind of like the point Chris is making, like it's here and now, right? Like that Taylor's making, it's here and now. It's almost like like as this generation grows up, it'll be very interesting to see sort of the more, like the grown up version of these experiences, what that turns into. What I'm confident it won't be is like the fluorescent conference room from, Silicon Valley replicated 100 times. Like I don't think it's going to be that, like, so it'll be interesting to see certainly what Epic does in this space as well, because, wow, like that could be maybe another topic we cover another week. But the way they're bringing Unreal Engine like capabilities to the creative mode in Fortnite, like their flywheel is equally fascinating. Though I would position them, if you read the thread, more as like sort of the Netflix of 3D content, where it's still a focus on bigger IP, celebrities, so on and so forth. But it is worth noting the Ariana Grande concert that they did in Fortnite was bigger than the Super Bowl halftime show. So that says everything. I had a bunch of colleagues whose kids were like, "We got to go check out the Ariana Grande concert together," which is like kind of mind blowing. Is like a cross generational sort of bonding activity as well. So, all right, let's wrap it up with a Roblox and jump into sort of the final. Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I think who's that? Real Lucas? Did
Oh,
you?
yo,
I
Luke,
just hit him the mouth.
Lucas. Yeah.
Mike, thanks.
Yeah. Please jump in if you got something to add. Let's go.
Hey guys, thanks for having me up. I do a lot of these metaverse and online music experiences, and have done a couple hundred of them for Meta and Microsoft and a whole bunch of people. The one thing, I don't know if you guys saw the news today. Did you guys see the Fortnite Coachella news?
I did not. No, educate
Yeah,
us.
just you can just Google Fortnite Coachella, but basically, Fortnite opened up, Epic opened up a digital mirror of Coachella. Huge effort. They've been working on it for months. A digital mirror of Coachella in full collaboration with the Coachella brand. It's a Fortnite creators universe that's called Fortnite Coachella. So that's the single biggest validator of sort of the intersection of the physical and the virtual in the music space, and how they're dealing with it and how they're building it is just extraordinary. So Roblox is a very cool space. Roblox has got iHeart and has got they're doing a lot of work in there. iHeart is doing a lot of Roblox stuff. The Chainsmokers did some Roblox stuff, but the Fortnite Coachella thing is next level brand integration, and I think you're going to see an incredible fusion of gaming and music, and you're going to see a lot more work like that. My company does a lot of work in that space, and it's really wonderful to see that continuous intersection of physical and virtual going on. So I didn't think, judging by how you guys were chatting, I didn't think you had seen the Fortnite Coachella news, so I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. That's it. Thanks.
Could I just follow up and ask you, like, how do you think about like the differences, especially on the creation side of, like, helping brands build these sort of virtual, in quotes, metaverse events? Like, how do you think about Roblox versus Fortnite and sort of how they're
I
evolving?
mean, I think that thanks for the question, but I think that Roblox is very, very targeted. They're a huge ecosystem. They're very, very targeted at younger kids, and they're trying to sort of poke up into the world of where I think Fortnite is. And they're not really doing it so far, but they are a massive, massive ecosystem, so they are certainly not to be counted out. Their creator dynamics in terms of how much money they give to the creators is one of the worst. So I think that they need some work in that area. But regardless of whether it's Fortnite or Roblox or Horizon or VR Chat or whatever, there's going to be an increasing, I think, demand for people not to be blocked into those walled gardens, right? Once you're in Fortnite Coachella is an incredible effort. But if you're not into the Fortnite universe and you're not a gamer, or maybe you're not into Coachella, then it's like, okay, well, that's really, really cool. For a ton of people, it's very, very cool. But maybe you're not a gamer, and then you're going to be locked into the Fortnite ecosystem. I think what we're seeing is it's the very beginning of the worlds where of it's the internet of metaverses. You need to be able to have a way to go from one URL to another URL in metaverse spaces. You need to be able to have your avatar representation or your virtual representation, and be able to go from Roblox to VR Chat to Horizon, and go from different. If you think of it as websites, you need to be able to go from one website to another website to another website and carry your identity and do it smoothly. One of the best examples of that was actually at the World Expo in Dubai. There's a company based in LA called Magnopus that built an extraordinary physical and virtual hybrid infrastructure around the World Expo, where they had a complete digital twin of the World Expo. And if you were not at the World Expo, you could see the virtual representation. If you were at the World Expo, you saw the physical representation, and you could see people walking around virtually and walking around physically. And you could easily go from one country to another country through portals. And it was I don't think a ton of people saw it, but it was an absolutely amazing experience. And I think that's the future. And as much as Epic wants to keep everybody in Fortnite, completely understandably, but that's keeping people in walled gardens always is a losing strategy. Long term, it's always a losing strategy, and you have to allow for interoperability, and you have to allow for people to have experiences and go from point A to point B and be able to experience those things freely. And so I think I answered the question. I'm not sure, but there you go.
I think you answered it and spawned three more questions. But yeah, I think actually, it'd be awesome to have you back another Friday and we could go deep dive into this because last time we were having this discussion about how can generative AI and just like AI, like just the freaking, just like it's the new hype cycle,
Sure.
right? Like help with interoperability and sort of like, even right now in a very simplistic sense, if you're like building, I don't know, even simple things like, face AR filters, it's not just the asset, but the interactivity that you imbue into it, the world that it's like instantiated in, and sort of building it for these walled gardens is kind of a, pain in the ass for the lack of a better word. And like that, complexity is just order of magnitude more when you're talking about these like more richer, like, experiences that you can like walk around in and, engage with other people. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to
I
see
think that,
if you have any thoughts on
yeah,
that, like how that's gonna
I mean,
like the metaverse plural, if you
yeah,
will.
I
Yeah.
think I think that first of all, with AI, as with any hype cycle, you have to filter out the 95% that's FOMO and hype, and get down to the 5% that's actually useful for you and useful for you in your daily life and in your daily work and what you can do and how you can do it. It's so easy to get caught up in these FOMO cycles, and it's like, oh my God, why don't I have 19 AIs running on my laptop, and why haven't I released a Chrome plugin and made money from it? It's like, Jesus Christ, everybody settle down. The useful things that I see, that I really see, that I think are there's only a couple of things that I've seen that I think, wow, that's amazing across all the hype stuff. Number one is, honestly, I got my mom, who's in her late 70s. I got her on Chat GPT, and seeing somebody from that age demographic and seeing how easily they got onto Chat GPT and how they interact with it, I think that's pretty extraordinary. And now my mom is actually sharing with her peer group how to get onto Chat GPT, and for her, it's amazing because she got the biggest damn kick out of the fact that all this modern technology has come up with a computer that lies to her. She views it very much as talking to another human being, in that when you get an opinion, you have to evaluate it for yourself. But she's having a blast. And the fact that it's as appropriate for someone who's 78 as it is for someone who's 20 is extraordinary. Everybody in this room, just close your eyes and picture for a minute trying to set up a crypto wallet for your parents, and that puckering that you get. Now when you do that with Chat GPT, it's something it sort of speaks to how big it's going to be cross generationally. And the only other thing that I've seen, I mean, there's been some amazing images and videos and stuff. The things that I see that really impress me are how it improves communication between humans. I deal with a lot of people, and my wife professionally deals with a lot of people that are neurodiverse, and that have a lot of social communication challenges. And ChatGPT, used judiciously and used correctly to help out in a real-time setting with social communication and with social communication challenges, I think that that's an absolutely extraordinary thing. I have seen ChatGPT help neurodiverse people with dating stuff, with like questions that everybody encounters, of like just normal relationship stuff, and the ways that a lot of neurotypical people can think through those problems and those challenges. A lot of neurodiversity people, that's very, very difficult for them. And being able to have an engine like ChatGPT, where you can bounce ideas off of that engine that will spark you to think of how to communicate in a different way with somebody to get to a specific goal, whether it's to make a friend, get laid, whatever it is, right? But seeing how it helps with social communication challenges and bring people closer together, to me, that's absolutely extraordinary. Of course, that power can be used for evil as well as good, but it's amazing. So anyway, that was a very long answer, but there you go.
No, thank you so much. All right,
Yeah, that was
I
very
think
good, very good. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for saying that. I do appreciate that. That's such an
amen.
excellent point that you make there, because we forget about just the little things with the everyday conversations in just like practicing. Like you would tell somebody to practice for a job interview using Chat GPT to act as an interviewer. You could have them act as a date or whatever, and just kind of go through those little things that make that neurodiverse people would have to deal with, or people that speak English as a second language, and how to deal with that. But thank you so much. I apologize, Phil. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Well, you're going to do what I'm going to do anyway. So, which is
oh.
transition. So, which is, I think it's just to close on that. I think that is one interesting, unique thing about generative AI, which is like compared to the previous hype cycles, the fact that everyone can like engage, touch, and feel this tech, and kind of it can have a visceral sort of impact on your life today, given all its like flaws and all that. I think is what makes this exciting. But speaking of GPT and the amazing impact it's having here, I think the biggest news for this week has definitely been AutoGPT, right? Like, so let's break this down. We've got, let's see, like Sully, we want to get you on the stage. Let's invite you to speak if you could accept and jump on here. He's going to be our guru that's going to break it down. But before that, Matt, why don't you tee up AutoGPT for all of us?
Sure. Yeah, I've actually had a little bit of time to play with AutoGPT over the last few days. So basically what AutoGPT is it's a tool that's connected to your GPT, plus it's connected to the web, and you essentially go in and you plug in a goal and an objective that you want this to achieve, and it will continually search the web and then add new objectives to get to your final outcome, and it will continue to run until it reaches that outcome. So I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but I have this installed locally on my computer. It's very, very simple to install. Anybody could put it on their computer, and you plug in your your GPT-3 API code. You plug in a Pinecone API code, which allows you to store information into long-term memory, and then you give it this objective, and then it will search the web and then add new objectives to the list and continually try to reach that objective. And one of the reasons that AutoGPT has been in the news lately and people have been talking about it lately was somebody decided, let's go and create Chaos GPT with AutoGPT and see if we can get this thing to destroy the world for us. And so somebody created an Auto GPT bot called Chaos GPT with the objective of destroying the world. And it was quickly shut down by the GPT-3 safeguards. It basically said, hey, we can't do this stuff for you. And the final outcome of this Chaos GPT was that it sent out 2 tweets trying to rally the troops to help it destroy the world. And it was seen by a grand total of about 250 people. But yeah, AutoGPT is just this self-improving, self-continuing tool that tries to get to an objective using a combination of GPT-3, Pinecone, and browsing the web. So that's kind of setting up what AutoGPT is. And I'm going to hand it over to somebody who's probably a better expert on the topic. I have played with it. Happy to share some of the experiments I did. But I'm going to pass it over to, is it Soli who's up on the stage now? I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, Sully, come on over. Come on, please break it down for us. Tell us, like, what are you excited about here? Like, this ability, it's fascinating just to even react to what Matt said. Like, just by having, like, GPT be able to call itself recursively lets it do a lot more without human intervention, or at least having the human kind of guide it if it's on the right path, like the rationale and the next step it's taking. But there's so much happening. Can you, like, explain to us why are people so freaking excited about it? And then what are you excited about?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure my mic's working.
Crystal clear. Yep.
All right, awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys. But yeah, I have to say, like, it's absolutely insane, and I think a lot of people are excited because of the implication that it has. Like, I honestly came across AutoGPT about a week ago, and I didn't really think of it much at first, and then I installed it and I played with it, and I'm sure if you guys have played with it, a lot of them are pretty limited. Like once you kind of dive down into the nitty gritty. But like the big kind of, mind-blowing moment was looking at the code for these. And if you're a developer, you're an engineer, you worked at a company like that, you look at it and you're like, this is not insanely complicated, but it could do so much, right? And that is kind of, I think, why so many people are so fascinated by it, is because it's so early and it's already, like you guys said, able to look at the web, and most importantly, it can recursively call itself, which, and I think we're just kind of like figuring out what that implies. One of the things that I've noticed kind of talking to a lot of people is that prompt engineering itself is, we want to think it's easy, but it's actually quite difficult. And you can buy like a lot of different things, and there's a lot of sites that show you how to prompt engineer. But one of the things that like talking to users, they've said that like through the use of AutoGPT or Baby AGI or any of these kind of tools, they're able to achieve the goal because the like ChatGPT or like the API itself is able to generate prompts for itself to kind of guide it to that goal. So we're going to start to see, I think, in the next, probably month or 2 months, people using these tools a lot more because they're a lot easier to use for the average person. And just the nature of, letting things run on its own, not having to worry about what prompts, is my prompt right? Is my output right? Like all these little things, like the average person doesn't want to think about that. They want, one thing. And then if they're able to get that with one input, they're happy. And I think these kind of, recursively calling auto GPT applications will kind of give them that. But yeah, that's kind of what my current thought is, just using it and kind of like how I think the landscape is going to kind of play out.
Linus, is this the end of prompt engineering? You like to wax poetic about prompt engineering then again, I mean, we could always debate what is prompt engineering and how that might evolve. Curious if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. I'm like I say, every time I talk about this, I'm not sure how well things are going to age, but I've said this for a while now, and I think we're just inching our way there. We could talk about what prompt engineering actually means. Maybe the definition will change over time, but I think what we saw a few months ago, I think that is now completely kind of out of the window with AutoGPT. I don't know. I still think there is a need though for like the ability to speak AI, but I'm not sure that's the same as prompt engineering. I feel for me, prompt engineering and the thing that has been going on with that is more like figuring out great ways to jailbreak or figuring out ways to like use words in a specific order or keys to like get a specific output. I think what we're seeing now is people getting more and more comfortable talking to AI. More and more people are using natural language. More and more people are learning how to properly do few shots and not just jump straight into like a ChatGPT conversation and just writing, "Hey, give me X," because like that won't yield you very good results. And now if we're looking at like AutoGPT, Baby AGI, it's like we're just opening an infinite amount of more possibilities. If you've tried God mode space, for example, which allows you to kind of play with stuff directly in the browser without installing anything, it's just mind blowing to see what's going on. Like the AI is just calling itself so many times over and over to do things. And it's funny, I used it to research the meaning of life. And I'm not sure what better way to like see an AI do work than trying to go down the rabbit hole of figuring out the meaning of life. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. I definitely think this is again in the direction of the of kind of removing prompt engineering. Yeah. So
It's
It's
like a
funny because it
balance.
went so fast. It like that was so fast since we started talking about this, about the need for prompt engineering and for the how things were going to change in the future. And when you did say pretty soon we're not going to need to know, everybody will be there's not going to be a need for them. And that's only been about a month or so, and how quickly these
yeah, maybe
things are
6 weeks.
changing. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's like it's wild, but it's more of the thing of how do you think about and approach it, kind of seeing it through a different perspective when you're prompting, depending on what, like with God mode even. I tried it out. I asked how many seasons there were on Ozark, Netflix show, and it kept having some issues because I guess the way the query was, the JSON, something was going on with that, and I had to go through several steps in order to keep prompting it to continue and to approve it. So I had to think about, what am I trying to get out of this next, and do I want to go ahead with this plan to see if it could answer my question. It finally got to it, but it had to do a Google search. But it wasn't really simple for anybody. It says sit back and relax, but you kind of have to understand what's going on in the background in order to do that. But I think that it's funny because now the way, yeah, right, everybody knows how to prompt basically now, or a lot of people who are getting more used to that. But it's changing, and now we have to kind of approach it completely differently.
I totally agree, and I think it's also like it's a different way of doing things, and you can say kind of the way that it's laid out with thoughts and reasoning, proposed actions and stuff. Like it just gives you so much more variety, and it's different from just plain prompting. Sully, sorry, your mic.
Sully, you got
Oh,
a nice Cherry MX keys there, buddy.
sorry, my bad. I thought my mic was on mute. My bad, guys.
I love it. I
It's my
just love
first.
that mechanical sound. It's weirdly
Yeah, no
soothing.
worries.
Yeah.
Go
Sorry, I
ahead,
had to mute
Sully.
myself.
Please add to
Oh,
the
okay.
conversation. You're our expert.
Oh, yeah. So I've been using like all these AI tools, and like for me the first one was obviously Stable Diffusion back in when it got announced back in September. And I don't know if you guys remember how intricate you had to prompt Stable Diffusion to get like something that looked reasonable as a photo, compared to now you go to Mid Journey and you put like 6 words and it just creates this thing that's like out of this world. Like if you were to show that to someone a year ago, they would just, their mind would be blown. And it's just insane how much like the onus of prompting or having an intricate prompt is getting away from the user, and it's going on towards the system. And I can speak to a little bit about this because like I've built a couple of different things that really rely on prompting. And I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with LangChain. It's like a library. It's probably one of the most popular libraries, which they chain prompts. But if you actually dig into it, like I think the role of a prompt engineer is going to be an actual position, but working at a company who's building a system that like uses these prompts, because there is nothing right now available for like a developer or someone who wants to get like a system to act in a specific way. There's no tooling. You have to sit there and prompt, use different system prompts, temperatures, like there's a lot of different things that go into it. But as a user of these applications, 100% that we're just going to be going towards this era of where I ask it for a goal. What is the meaning of life? Arbitrary goal, right? Like that's a pretty hard question to get someone to use ChatGPT to do that for you. But these systems with AutoGPT, it'll be able to do that because it's able to ask itself questions. It's able to recursively keep asking until it's able to kind of go towards that goal. So I think the role of a prompt engineer is still going to be there. It's still very new. I mean, it's crazy to say like 4 months ago is not really that long ago, but in AI it's like 2 years ago. I definitely think though the users are going to be prompting a lot less. It's just too complicated, like for an average person to sit there and try to come up with a prompt that like gets them the output, right? People are frustrated. They want the answer, or they want whatever task done easily and simplified.
That's it. Really interesting, right? It's like you give it this high level direction, and then sort of the system works collaboratively with you to decompose that into these concrete tasks, and then you can sort of guide it, right? It's kind of like what you would do as a manager. I think a lot of people have been making this like management analogy where you just like sort of give it like the nudge in the right direction. Sully, could you talk a little bit about the use cases that you're excited about? And Varun, welcome to the stage as well.
Sorry, what was that? You kind of cut out there on my end.
Well, what are some of the use cases you're personally excited about, right? Like the stuff that's like got
Okay.
you like super jazzed to use this tech.
Yeah, so I mean the possibilities are honestly endless. Coding is a big one. I think that it still has a long way to go. I'm sure you guys don't know if you know McKay Wrigley. He has like a lot of really good coding demos showing what's possible with these agents. And I think soon, and by soon I mean like probably 3 months tops, you're gonna have agents that can code you websites with a single prompt, and not like a lot of the demos that you see online are create this basic site and it's kind of like a template. No, it'll be able to create a website kind of customized to your needs easily within the next 2 months. So coding is a big one. Being able to kind of recursively call itself, look on the internet, try to solve the thing, and also be able to test itself. For those of you who played with AutoGPT, I don't know how many people played with the coding. It's not great. But what I did when I was playing with it, I set up a testing infrastructure for it. So I would tell it, here's this code, you can write it in this file, but also here's this other file that you can run to test your own code. And I managed, it didn't work as well as I'd hoped, but it was able to create a function, test it, and then kind of improve upon it itself. and that was with me tinkering it for a day. So coding is a big one. But honestly, the possibilities, like where I see this space going, is essentially endless, because you can kind of plug and play and connect it to anything. The whole idea behind AutoGPT, yes, it can recursively call itself, but the big thing that is insane to me is that you can give it access to functions. You can say, hey, you can call, you have access to search, you have access to a calculator, you have access to these like 5, 6, whatever, however many tools you want. Here's this task. How would you accomplish it? And then is able to kind of deduce using, like the large language model. Okay, I'll search here this, I'll get this number, I'll calculate this, and then I'll do this, this, and this. So just the fact that it can do that, like, which basically implies it could do anything, assuming you can get a correct output. Right now, it's not that great, and it kind of runs in loops. But that's kind of what I'm excited for, just to be able to automate a lot of things, really anything. I think it's still too early to say exactly what, like, niche or things. But I think the possibilities are like just pretty much anything that you can honestly think of.
Yeah, even outside of the developer realm, it seems like one of the non-dev examples I saw was just like, hey, I want to create like this freaking, tell me what's the best headphone to buy. And this process that we all as humans kind of go through, right? We'll go like, all right, let me go see what Wirecutter has to say. Let me see what Mark has his reviews say, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of like parse, collate all that information together. You can kind of just like that multi-step process truly becomes one prompt. Yeah. Linus, jump in here.
So on this, I'm kind of like I'm a bit torn. So I'm not sure. I want to live in a world where I do one input in a box somewhere where I go, hey, find me the best headphones, for example. Maybe I want to watch Marquez, or maybe I want to watch Linus Tech Tips, or maybe I want to watch some of these YouTube channels. Maybe I Justine, to mention a woman as well. I'm worried that we might end up in a position where, you're just asking a simple thing, AI does a lot of work for you, and you get dumber, essentially. So that was just a quick one on that. But like back to like what's possible with this, and like what Solly's saying in terms of like the almost limitless, endless, limitless potential. I think what we're starting to venture into is like how our minds are going to be once we reach some sort of inkling of AGI. Is this it? Maybe like this is like the first kind of sparks of AGI for real, where it's getting hard to discern whether or not like this entities of doing things, self-reasoning, self-reflecting, and we're just shepherding it in a way. It's like I think if you'd asked me half a year ago, I'd say like we're probably 15, 20 years out to get to AGI. But then with these things, I'm just like, holy fuck, like whatever they have cooking up with GPT-5, GPT-6. I'm starting to understand why. I'm starting to take more sides with the people that are thinking we should go more cautiously about this. Because again, no, sorry.
Wait, so
but
are you saying, so last time we talked about this, you were 50-50, and I think you and I were both towing the line, sort of like,
Yes.
hey, yes, this is great, but it's also, it's like, are you saying that you're leaning more into like the caution bucket? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think we should, yeah, maybe I'm now 49-51.
Damn.
what I'm what I'm really kind of like getting at now is like, for the past, since December, all right, many people have known about ChatGPT, and many people have just either just been in there, dismissed it, or some people have gone crazy about it and it's changing their lives, and some people are even nerdier, like the 2% of the people that have started. We're probably us in this room, and if we look at AutoGPT, Baby AGI, and these tools, that's like the 2% of the 2%, and the stuff that's coming out of it's just completely mind blowing. And I'm really having a hard time trying to synthesize what's going to happen when that becomes mainstream, and because of things moving so fast. I'm just afraid that like it might be going too fast for the average for average folks that are not interested in tech to get to do that. Yeah, sorry.
Is AutoGPT taking over? So it's like,
Hey, I'll pause. Thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. So, Sully, what do
I'm
you think
so
about
sorry.
sort of the caution angle to all of this? Like, and the potential for abuse, because Matt mentioned some examples earlier, and maybe the blast radius wasn't that sophisticated, but yeah, like if like I imagine a truly bad actor could probably use the same technology to do probably a lot of harm at some crazy amount of scale that just like would perhaps blow bot farms out of the frickin' water. What are your thoughts?
I honestly kind of agree that, like, after last week, I had a couple nights where I just sat down in bed and I was like, what does this mean for us? So it's funny. I have the exact same feeling. If you would ask me 2 weeks ago about should we slow down the progress of development in AI, and I was like, no, that's stupid. To fast forward 2 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, maybe this is maybe something we should consider, um, because there is a lot of safety concerns, and I think there's a clip from the All In podcast where they talked about this quickly, and they said about I think they gave a pretty bit of like a extravagant example where someone could automatically get it to build a website to like hack the financial system, which was a bit exaggerated in my opinion, but they did talk about how these systems, especially like an AutoGPT style system, probably does need guardrails in addition to the guardrails that the LLM itself has. GPT-4, it was tested for 6 months to assure safety, but I don't really know if they tested it in a sense where the LLM could call itself has access to all these things. So I think that it's something definitely I feel like a lot more eyes should be on, because it just seems that it is kind of progressing too quick for us to keep up. And generally, when that happens, it sometimes does kind of like could result in bad things because there's not enough like safety guards up. So I'm definitely kind of leaning more towards the camp of like, hey, maybe it is time to slow down a bit, but obviously that's completely out of our control. It's kind of dependent upon regulators and the big tech companies to see how they want to do that.
Yeah, Chris, do you wanna add something here?
Yeah, love the conversation. By the way, thank you guys for hosting this. So, if you're interested in diving deeper into the conversation around AI safety and what it means for us as a society, I highly recommend the book Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark. Lex Friedman and Max Tegmark were actually at MIT, I think yesterday, and they brought on Sam, and they were kind of talking about that. And I think they also have a podcast session that'll be an interesting listen. But it is a fascinating book for you to have a baseline conversation around AI. With that said, my thoughts on slowing things down versus moving ahead. The biggest question that I always ask is, how do you enforce it? Like even if we decided that okay, we want to slow it down, how are you going to ensure that Facebook behind the scenes or Google behind the scenes isn't working on it, or another country isn't working on it? Because at the end of the day, the company or the country with the most powerful AI will have a major advantage. And so when you think about it, one of the things that Sam had alluded to was that the U.S. government is constantly in touch with them. This is in fact a national security issue at this point in time. And so, how do you enforce something like a slowdown? Like we all want to say, okay, let's do the right thing, but is it practical to expect that this is something that's even enforceable?
It's a very good question and kind of a hard one. Yeah, Linus, jump in here.
Yeah, I think if we're just going to leave that for, I'm just vigilant about time, but like I think the enforcement and all this is going to be super hard. I think I don't want to get stuck again on the philosophical sides of like should we pause or not pause, but I do echo that Max Tegmark's book. Everyone should read it, Life 3.0, and everyone should also check out his interview. But I also would like to shield Nick Bostrom here as well, also a fellow Swede. Both Max
Every
and
time, Linus.
yes, I know.
Jesus.
but let's move on to some more examples. Like I want to hear like if people have done things with AutoGPT or Baby AGI, and like if we can move away from maybe this quite abstract high level things that we're talking about, but like what are some of the things that we've seen people do with AutoGPT, for example, that's just been mind blowing? Matt, you've been playing around with this. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know if what I've been experimenting with would be would fall under the mind blowing category. But I have
Yes.
but I
Let's do
have
any use
experimented with it
case.
a little bit.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I mean, I do a lot on YouTube, right? And what I was doing in the past was I was using ChatGPT and I was plugging in some of my most popular titles for YouTube videos and saying, these have been my most popular videos, recommend some titles for more videos, right? So what I was using AutoGPT for, and the example I used in my video was I had AutoGPT. I said that I want the goal to be, I want to make more YouTube videos that are potentially going to go viral. What videos should I make? And then AutoGPT just kind of went off and started doing its own thing. And it went and searched Google and it found other popular videos that were about AI on YouTube. And it saved that information into the database. And then it went and searched the MIT website to find trending topics about AI. And then it saved that. And then it went and searched YouTube for the latest AI news. And then it saved that. And then it kind of went and took all of this information that it found and combined it and then said, based on everything that we found, here's 10 potential videos that are on trending topics in the world of AI that based on other YouTube video titles and based on the news and based on the trending topics, here's some videos that we think will work really well on your YouTube channel. And that was the example that I used, and just kind of let it run, and it just kept on going and feeding me more and more and more ideas for YouTube videos. Now, a lot of the ideas that it gave me aren't anything that I'm probably going to make, to be totally honest, but I like where it's headed. I like, I like the fact that it went and it did the Google searches for me. And then it went on the MIT website and then it started researching what topics are interesting. And then it went on YouTube for me and essentially sorted by most popular videos around AI and then told me which videos were the most popular. And it gave me a lot of really, really good intel. I wasn't super impressed with the titles that it gave me, but that was one example of how I was using AutoGPT. And I'm excited to see how it evolves. But right now, I do think there is still a little bit to be desired with the final output. I think the outputs that AutoGPT gives you is just one giant lump of text, which is not ideal either. There's a tool called Agent GPT, which came out recently, which is a sort of web user interface where you don't need to install it locally and you can use that. That I think is a little bit better of a user interface than what you're getting when you install it locally. But yeah, that's my example. I wouldn't call that anything totally mind blowing because it was stuff that I was already kind of doing with ChatGPT. It just kind of went that extra mile of searching a handful of websites and then combining all of the information that it found to try to get me closer to what I was looking for.
So on that note, Matt, did you find this being more helpful than just using ChatGPT?
I found that ChatGPT actually still provides better titles for me. I almost feel like the information that I got back was sort of based on like almost overtrained information, right? Where if I go into ChatGPT and I say, here's my 10 best performing videos, can you recommend more videos for me? It's basing its responses off of a very small set of information that I provided it. And I actually found that gave me better results than when I used AutoGPT, and then AutoGPT went and took a much larger data set of information to provide me with results. So I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but like I actually still would probably go to ChatGPT for this purpose, but I definitely see the potential because it was trying to pull from so many more data points for me.
If I may jump in here, I think one interesting point is like it almost feels like the value, whether that's Chat GPT or GPT-4, and Chat GPT is better because of the RLHF that's over there, but the orchestration aspect of Auto GPT and being able to respond and orchestrate tasks seems more exciting. So like I'm thinking back to, Matt, the conversation we had about how you monitor when you upload a YouTube video, you'll tweak the thumbnail and title combination until you see like sort of the trend line going in a certain direction. And you can imagine building something like this that could automate that for you quite a bit and try different variations of like titles and then just see which one is like the most optimal one and kind of automate, some of these tasks that would have otherwise taken, sophisticated developer to build something and, interface with the API and do things like that. So yeah, this orchestration aspect seems very exciting to me. Soli, you've got more use cases for us. Like, what are some of the use cases you'd like to highlight for the listeners here?
Yeah, so one of the things that I really think that it's powerful for is it like right now is this ability to search, right? Which does open up a lot of different possibilities. So one of the things that I liked it for and that I was playing around with it was doing market research. Just because of the nature of like some sort of market research, like for example, let's say you are like you're selling some kind of clothing brand and you have a direct competitor. It's pretty cumbersome to sit there, and if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, you can look at the reviews, look at the comments, look at like different subreddits, and you want to get like a full analysis. But something like that, it's pretty annoying. You have to sit there, and it's not that complicated. It's just sitting there and reading it. And when I was playing with it, I was able to. It was okay, but it was actually looking through different, like it would find a pair of shoes and it would say like, okay, these are the pros. And then it would look at the reviews and it would be like, well, some reviews can be fake. I should look at some other place to make sure that these reviews are correct. So that like one of the big things that I see people could be using it like pretty quickly is just able to like do market research or competitor analysis where it's able to look at, if you're selling some product and whatever it could be, you're selling it on Amazon or something, and you want to sit there and you want to see, like what are the competitors doing? What are the competitors the users saying about my product or their product, and how can I improve mine? Normally that's like a pretty manual and like laborious process. You got to sit there, go to the comments, and then generally you as a human, you can get some sentiment on it. Well, guess what? AutoGPT can go in, get all of the things, kind of format it nicely, and then the power of a natural like a LLM is that it's an NLP, right? So you can actually get it to give you a sentiment analysis on that. So you get this giant, heap of data, and then it can condense that down for you. Now, is it there right now? No, it's probably not because it's not smart enough. But I think in the future, that's going to be a pretty good use case. And you could kind of abstract that to anywhere. Like, for example, social media analysis. Like, let's say you want to do like a sentiment analysis on all your socials. But to sit there and to look through all of your comments and stuff, if you're a large creator, it's pretty difficult. But if you give access to AutoGPT, it can kind of compile all that for you. So I think a lot of the use cases that we're going to see moving forward are going to be these like web crawling kind of cases for now, where you give it a task and it's able to look on the internet and look at heaps of data, right? Because it's just going and kind of condense it down for you. And I think a lot of people are trying to solve that problem right now, or going to be trying to solve that, so in a manner that actually makes sense. It doesn't hallucinate, and it actually is able to give you something that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten from ChatGPT. I think that's going to be kind of worked out, but I think that's like a pretty like a eminent use case that's going to be coming up pretty soon.
Very well said. Yeah. Like this ability to have internet access, go look for the right information and then sort of summarize and distill it down for you. Yeah. I love the social media sentiment analysis use case. Like, and there are services out there that do that. Now you can just kind of make something hyper specific to you as your creator and maybe even act upon that analysis and do interesting things. Yeah. Linus and Deb, also welcome to the stage.
So one thing that I'm looking forward to try to put together myself is kind of a not just like not a reply bot, but I want an agent to kind of monitor my inbox, both email and others, and then act on, like, I wanted to be able to make some deterministic approaches. I wanted to be able to say, I got approval from Linus to kind of answer these things, and then I just wanted to answer, and then I wanted to kind of like start preparing answers for other things that I then need to manually review. So almost like a personal assistant that runs through all inbound for me. And I think this is a good use case of AutoGPT for me, where it's like having this agent. It has a goal. The goal is to get to inbox 0, and then it has some directives in terms of what it's allowed to do and what it's not allowed to do. So that's something that I'm looking forward to kind of spin up.
One use case that I'm looking at is that of an AI marketer. So imagine you have a Shopify store and you have products on that store. It would be able to look through your inventory and it would just recursively come up with marketing ideas for different products, promotions. It would just be an assistant that sits in your store and its only purpose is to come up with ideas to market on social media, on third party sites, and to leverage maybe holidays and come up with ideas for promotions to help people sell.
I love Linus's idea too. I would just love to see that, but with DMs as well, because my DMs are equally as hectic as my email. But something where it watches your communications that are happening, and then anything that you kind of get a lot and you know how to respond, it can automatically respond with a canned response to very specific criteria. But then anything else just kind of have a message queued up that you review. I think that's a brilliant idea. And I, for one, hope that Linus goes and develops that because I'd be your first customer.
Me too.
Thank you.
Me too.
Thank
Please,
you.
please, please do that.
Yeah, it would definitely be solving one of my biggest problems here. Like, obviously, inbound is insane for any platform that I'm on at the moment. So, but I also feel like it would solve a problem for many other people as well, not just us that kind of deal with large inboxes, but in general, like tee up things for me. Like, if I have to go through these tedious process of doing everything over and over again, it's just like tee it up. Like, here you have some directives, answer all the crap stuff, actually engage. I love this thing from Do Not Pay that they did the other week where they're like you can have this email reply bot that just puts any spammer into this infinite loop. So like if you have someone that's trying to scam you, instead of it going to your spam box, you can just have AI go nuts on it and just keep them interacted upon in infinity. So I think like yeah, I think there's good use cases here to like free up my time, but also to keep me still in control. I don't want some rogue AI start saying yes to a lot of things that I don't want to do.
It's also personalized, right? Like as you were describing your example, I was thinking like, the spam filter in Gmail has been trained, like it's this like generalized spam filter. And now you can start making really stuff that's like tailor suited to you and your workflow and your criteria. So that's like, I always love it when Imad would say stuff like, everyone's going to have an AI, everyone's going to make it. It's going to be many models. I think this is perhaps one, instantiation of how you could make your own like sort of agent, that can do things on your behest to your exact liking. So like we're headed towards that Jarvis future, to use a science fiction analogy, right? It's super exciting. Hey Deb, thanks for joining us on stage. Anything you'd like to add to the conversation about AutoGPT?
Hey there. Yeah, I just wanted to actually I put my mic on when Real Lucas was here, but I'll DM him. But I just wanted to now just make us all laugh and pause for a moment because when I was listening to Linus and his let's say fears or disdain of like so many things being automated now, um, we were just laughing here, not at him. We were thinking of our great grandparents and their comments about, oh, years ago when calculators came out, and you guys with your Google search, and you guys with your Wikipedia, and you guys automating everything. How are you going to learn anything? How are you going to learn how to research? What's going to happen to libraries? What's, and I just realized like we're sounding like them. Like if we're developers and engineers, we're never, ever, ever going to not research. Um, I mean, we're building things, right? So, but we're doing that because the masses are not engineers. The masses are not, developers, and this is really convenient for them. So it just made us think about, the great grandparents, the great uncles, and their disdain for, calculators and this Google search stuff. And like, how are you going to learn how to research, and what's going to happen to libraries? And I mean, what's going to happen to your ability to think? I'm like, are we sounding like that now because of AutoGPT? I just wanted to throw that in there. I just wanted to inject some humor and thought.
It's
I
pretty
love
funny.
that. Thank you.
Thank
It
you,
is
Tim.
yeah, I mean it's a hey AI Advantage, welcome to the stage as well. It's like yeah, it is a good question though. I think like the only counter argument, and I'm grasping at straws here because I'm definitely down for all of this stuff, is just like the leap from calculator to agents that can do very amorphous talks at your behest, right? Like, so instead of learning how to do, I got it. Sure, like MLA citations were a freaking pain in the ass, but like the act of researching was this like skill that was useful. I just hope that we replace, with this automation, we start operating at some higher level of abstraction that still keeps us meaningfully like, engaged, intellectually engaged.
But
And
won't
so
we, Bill? Won't we? I mean, we will. In other words,
I
no,
hope
no. Of
so.
course we will. And if we don't think so, then we sound like our grandparents, or our great grandparents. Of course we will. These things are going to be mainly used, or are going to be attractive to the users that they're marketed to, who don't have the mental or intellectual or bandwidth or desire, for all of that stuff. That's where the calculator came in handy. That's where Google search came in handy. The people who don't want to be bothered with research. It's not going to eliminate the researchers, you know. I mean, that's where Wikipedia came in handy for the masses. I mean, they don't want to be bothered with all of that, but it didn't eliminate the people who compile the information, so we just listen to ourselves, okay? It's not going to eliminate that way of thinking for people who came into this world either with that gift or with that desire to be that way. It's not going to eliminate that.
Yeah, go for it, Linus.
Sorry, I was fiddling with the mic. I'm not sure what to respond here. I think, yeah, I am sure what to respond here. I think if we look at this exponential curve of I think Sally put it nicely in his image there. If we look at when GPT-3 was dropped and then GPT-4 and then when we have agents, it's kind of like we're kind of accelerating. I think what's going to be tricky to understand here is that LLMs will be like the calculator. I've said this many times. Anyone can use a calculator and you can use it unlimited amounts of time. Very highly sophisticated LLMs will be like a calculator. You buy it once, you use it as many times as you want. If we're looking at AGI, for example, if we ever get there, it's a whole different ballpark. It kind of renders everything that we're doing currently somewhat obsolete. Like I'm almost thinking that the internet that we're used to will kind of go away because we won't need it. It's just going to be a lot of abstraction and arbitrage that we don't really need. We're just going to. Why would we? Why would we need a website? If the goal is to get the job done, the simplest way to get the job done is to ask a question, either using your voice or natural language written. You don't need UI. You don't need any of that crap. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm agreeing here because sounding like our grandparents, yes, maybe. I think higher level of abstraction, humans will want to be doing things they care about. So if we can automate away all the crap that we're currently doing, and we can focus on maybe becoming really enlightened, do hard science, and even AI is doing hard science for us, and it's doing
Enlightenment. I'm for that.
if you think about it, like if we look
I
at
can't assign
AlphaFold,
that to an agent. Hey, please, like, help me achieve enlightenment in 50
I
days.
want to get enlightened. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, exactly. Imagine that. Meaning of life again. No, but if we look at like for just a quick moment, if we look at AlphaFold, we had the best humans in the world trying to do protein folding for many years, and we took AI AlphaFold to the job, and it went from like what synthesize 17% of the proteins to 92% of the proteins in one go. And we've had humans working on this for 2 decades. So even hard science will be helped out a lot by AI, and I think humans will have to be good shepherds. We will have to know how to talk to these machines, how to like interact with them. That's going to be important. They're going to be everywhere. We're just going to have to deal with it. But it's going to be scary stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Well,
Rant
balanced
over.
perspective. Yeah, I love it. Hey, AI Advantage, welcome to the stage. If y'all don't know, AI Advantage has an awesome YouTube channel. Y'all should also follow him on Twitter. Yeah, jump on in. Give us your thoughts. What's the AI advantage of AutoGPT?
Oh, hey man. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. It's I just love these open conversations because then you really get to go a little deeper than in a monologue. So yeah, thanks for hosting this. Good to see some familiar faces too. And I think I have 2 points that I would like to throw in here. One is building up on what Linus said with kind of the opposite approach to spam, because I think this is one of the big talking points on how if AI gets better and more user friendly, it'll get into a situation where spammers will just really have like their game turned into easy mode overnight, right? So I think it's also interesting to look at the point that Linus brought up where it's the opposite too, right? Once they get these tools to spam easily and to create deep fakes easily, well, guess what? There's going to be another developer, a white hat, that is going to do the opposite, going to be looking for them, filtering for them, and making their life really hard. And that's what right in that situation, I would call that radical positivity. And that's the approach I like to take to a lot of these topics a lot of the time, because yes, it's easy to get engagement and to get clicks and to get people's attention if you talk about the negative parts, because we, our circuits are built for negative emotions primarily, right? Survival. That's how we're programmed. That's how we evolved. But if you look at the opposite parts, I think there's going to be a lot of new opportunities opening up just with this stuff getting more user friendly. Because just like with spam, you can create spam, but you can combat spam more easily. And if you look at jobs and any other discussion point here, it's the same. And that brings me to AutoGPT. So what I think there, one thing that is important to consider is, well, first of all, I love that we're talking about the positive parts, because there's like negative topics that could be covered connected to AutoGPT. But I would like to maybe like lead into a question and then have you guys discuss it, because you really have to think about the fact that ChatGPT currently is optimized for human usage, right? That's how it is set up. That's what they released. That's the big difference between GPT-3 and ChatGPT, right? That came back out like end of November, December. So I would just like open up the question on what do you guys make of having a different model behind AutoGPT that is not optimized for humans, but optimized for prompting itself, right? And do you guys think that, well, the answer is probably yes, but do you guys think that OpenAI has a model of their own where they did not consider a human interface at all? I mean, they gotta, right? There's no way they don't. And then here's my question. How much closer does that bring us to AGI? Because AutoGPT right now, Agent GPT, baby AGI, it's great, right? It does a lot, but it's not optimized to prompt itself. What if you plug a model in that is as capable or more as GPT-4, and it's actually optimized for that? How much closer would we be to AGI today? Yeah.
That's a deep question. Yeah, like I can't help but make the Eliezer, like that's how you end up with like a replicators, like a replicator sci-fi scenario. But I don't want to bring up I don't want to get too flippant on here. Anyone else like to react to that?
Yes, I think if AI is not optimized for us, if it's just optimized to talk to itself, it's going to be very interesting. We see it already with kind of like how it knows how to use minification, or like you could actually get it to like miniaturize code and then expand code again, like from the miniaturized version, and it does that very well. So you can just imagine, like, if it doesn't really have to communicate with us, I think it would communicate differently and probably way, way, way faster than what we're currently doing with trying to do everything with natural language. I also think like what's missing here in terms of just AutoGTP or Baby AGI is like reflections. I'm sure everyone, or if you haven't, that there was this paper with maybe we touched on this last week or maybe not, where some researchers had GPT-4 kind of like self-reflect, and I see this now being implemented all over the shop, right? But it improved its capabilities by like 15 to 20% over like previous benchmarks by just having it self-reflect. And the reason for this is like an autoregressive model, so it doesn't know the end of what it's going to say before it actually said the end. It's like the model cannot determine what's going to be the last word of its generation, because it doesn't know what the last word is going to be. So When it does something and then self-reflects and then does something again, it kind of like learns based on its previous inputs or outputs, and then it can kind of like improve. And I think that in combination with everything that we're seeing with AutoGPT or Baby AGI and even Jarvis from Microsoft, like I think we're gonna get to a pretty high like standard with only GPT-4 as the engine, or Anthropic with Claude as an engine for kind of the generation for the LLM. But I think the real big gap is going to come with the next generation models. Like when GPT-5 comes around, if it comes around, we're going to see the next big step change. Because a lot of these things that we're currently seeing with AutoGPT and Baby AGI is like only working with GPT-4. It did not work with GPT 3.5. So yeah, I think like it's going to be interesting to see what people tinker with in the next couple of months with what's out there. And I think we're going to see a lot more breakthroughs when more people, more research labs, and more really smarter people than me are doing work in this field. We're going to see a lot more kind of like percentage-based increments, like 5% better, 10% better. That's going to like all those small things going to add up, and by the end of the year, we're going to have something that's super, super capable without the next generation LLM underneath. That's my predictions.
Cool. Thanks, Linus. And
And
Alan, also welcome to the stage.
Hey, thanks. Long time listener, first time caller. Really enjoying this conversation, and I wanted to maybe throw out a different angle here. Probably like many of you, I've been building software for quite a while. In my case, started in the web 1.0, and I've worked on mobile apps, automotive software, consumer electronics, and I've never seen anything that has moved this fast. And as a product builder and starting to build, I've launched one AI native product and I'm working on a second one. I'm wondering how people who are also working in this space now, how you're managing the velocity of how this is changing and how the change is compounding, and how every week it almost seems like something that you're working on is either irrelevant or it's going to be sort of swallowed up as a something that a foundational model can do in a couple weeks. Is anyone else sort of experiencing this, or have a good way of thinking about it, or just want to put that out there?
I think you're onto something there, Alan, and welcome to the space. I think this space is probably one of the things that keeps the sanity going for us. It is tricky if you're a product builder now, and I'm not sure the level of everyone in here is very different, but speaking from my perspective, if you're only wrapping and doing stuff that's relatively easy to do, only using, for example, GPT-4, or only using some other things, then it might be difficult to stay relevant. But then if you're doing something more and you have a bit more of a moat, then it might be better and easier to stay relevant.
No, for sure. If you're just doing point solutions with sort of a UI over ChatGPT, I agree. That's probably going to go away. But like even sort of fine tuning your own model on sort of a specialized data set, even that feels like I don't know, that it's maybe not as defensible as it might have seemed a while ago. But anyway, enjoying the conversation, and yeah, maybe the philosophical part is more interesting than the product part. But before I hand off, I just also want to say, like, this is maybe also the most interesting time to build stuff. And I think that's actually probably the best way to sort of answer all of these questions, is to build things for other people to use. And I just, yeah, I'm really loving sort of that spirit that I'm seeing. And yeah, and really, I think it's a cool thing that we're going through right now.
Well, thanks, Alan. Sully, you had a couple notes to add. Do you want to round out this conversation?
Yeah, so to take to that point about kind of like how do you this idea of moats and like how is it even how do you even keep up, because like we all kind of see it seems like every week there's a breakthrough made, and I think that's one thing I've personally been thinking about a lot, just building different products. And I think the one area where if you are in the space and you do want to build something is to just really focus on the customer. um like for if you're I think the majority of people here are pretty tech savvy and they understand how to use ChatGPT, how to play with it, how to kind of do with it, but like the average person doesn't necessarily know how to use these AI tools yet to do tasks for them, and they don't, and the user interfaces right now aren't like the easiest to use per se. And I like to think of this analogy as when if you're looking at ChatGPT, right? Technically, we have infinite possibilities of what you could do with ChatGPT, right? It's just this huge LLM, and it can do whatever you want for it. And I like to always think about this idea that whenever you go to a restaurant, if you look at a menu and they have like 5,000 items, or even if you actually go to a restaurant that has 30 items, 40 items, you kind of get like stuck. You don't know what to pick. You're like, there's too many things on this menu. Like you're like, and then usually what do? You say, hey waiter, what's the best item, and you pick that, right? But as opposed to a menu with 5 items or 6 items, you're like, okay, there's like these like 6 items, I'm gonna pick this one here. And I'm kind of viewing like this chat interface for now anyways. This might age poorly when OpenAI comes out with a different interface, but for now I kind of see chat as kind of the same idea, where it's for the average person it's pretty hard to kind of do the things that they want to do because there's just too many options. And I actually found this when I was building. I don't know if you guys played with like Chat PDF. You can chat with the PDF or chat with a YouTube video. It's one of like the popular products. I kind of made one as an example for myself, and I gave it to someone. They said, "Oh, this is cool, but like I don't know what to ask it. I don't know what to do with it." And it's because there's so many things that like you could potentially do with these AI systems that it's really difficult. So when I think of building a product, I think it's like, how do you deal with that? Well, one of the things I like to think of is like, how can you make the user experience as seamless as possible? Because you're not going to compete creating an LLM. Like you're not going to compete, with against OpenAI, because to train up something like that is billions of dollars, and it's hard to do that. But I do think that's like an area where a lot more developments are going to be made. How can you simplify the interface for the user so that they can kind of do what they want to do with it? That's kind of what I think for building product. But the other thing, kind of going back to the other point as well, was this idea of GPT-4, GPT-5, GPT-N, and how will that kind of go about? One of the biggest limiting factors for me, or using the API for GPT-4, is its context window and its price. So I'm sure you guys have played around with it. The price is 10 times more than that of GPT 3.5 Turbo. It does have the 8K context, but I think all that OpenAI needs to do to really just push us forward is to make the context window 32,000, make that as affordable as GPT 3.5. And I think just on that fundamental basis, I honestly think that you could get some sort of, quote unquote, AGI in the next year, just based on those two fundamentals, and just how much more powerful GPT-4 is compared to GPT 3.5.
Totally agree. I think in terms of like moat, I just pinned. So I've been building this journaling / mood tracking app for the past 2 years, and we've been reluctant of putting AI in it because we've been wanting to do it well and we wanted to do it nice. And I spoke about this a few weeks ago. One of the things that we're trying to do is to like have your journal be indexed and be searchable and all that, but also be proactive. So you can kind of speak to yourself and self-reflect, and it's a very weird experience. We tried this, and it just unlocks a lot of really strange things that you might learn about yourself. In the context of like what you said, like chat to this PDF. or chat to this book. People don't know what to do with that. But for us, like the moat is that, if you're journaling every day for a year, for half a year, there's a lot of stuff locked in there that you might not even know, and you might not even see the patterns yourself. But then having all that indexed and having the ability to kind of like query that or talk to that data, it's very powerful and very interesting in terms of like building something that has a bit more defensibility in it, because like other people could build the fact that you could like ask a set of data anything or talk to anything, but here the moat is that like you're contributing to your own private journal, and you're kind of building on that, and then AI here becomes like just a layer of interaction between you and the data, which but before this wasn't possible. You could filter, you could do stuff, you could like do some advanced search, but you could never interact with that data and have like sentiment analysis done in real time or analyze the data as different personas. But now you can. So I think that's very interesting and intriguing way of kind of like building with these tools and like making things that actually got use case. Yeah, that was a shameless plug as well. So thank you for that.
No, thank you for bringing that up, Linus. I'm glad that you did, because that's a great app. And I think that a lot of people, if they knew about it, they should take advantage of it, because it's free and it's such a easy thing to do. And I don't like journaling at all. I can't stand it, and I never do it. But I went ahead and downloaded your app and entered a couple sentences there, but also just tracking the mood. I'm interested to see, how that will work out. So thank you so much for putting that effort into that. And I hope that more people will support that. Please, we can drop that into the comments or put it on top. It's a really, really nice program. Thank you. I didn't mean to cut. I think I cut somebody off. Chris?
That's okay. Yes, Heather. Thank you. I got kicked out. I lost my connection, but I'm back. I wanted to add some context to the last point, um, in terms of how to really think through the radical pace of change that we're seeing. A lot of clients are coming to us, and they're asking similar questions like, what tools should they be using? And rather than being opinionated, the approach we're taking, at least, even in terms of the products that we're trying to put out, we're trying to develop mental models for clients, rather than saying, hey, you should use Midjourney or you should use GPT. It's more like, okay, focus on the fundamentals, which are the problems that you're solving for your users. If you're going into the conversation thinking, oh, AI is my advantage, I think you'll ultimately lose. The tech can't be what your differentiator is. There has to be a fundamental problem that you're looking to solve, and then looking as to how you can leverage the technology to make that more efficient, make it easier. That I think is ultimately what foundationally you'll have to do, because if history has taught us anything, a lot of the early players in Web 2.0, they didn't survive for that long, for a period, sure. And I think that's okay also. There are tools that are going to be valuable and important in the initial phase. And then you'll need to evolve beyond that. So for us, we're focusing on education. We're focusing on community and how we can just really facilitate conversations, because they're important questions to be asked, important discussions to be had. And certainly for the tools that are helpful today, I think we will invest in those, but with the understanding of knowing that by the end of the year, those tools may be obsolete, and that's fine. Better tools will likely replace them, and that will likely be the pace of change in an AI first world. And so it's something we're embracing rather than trying to fight. And as product builders ourselves, we're kind of seeing where that has to be the approach if we hope to survive.
Hey, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we see some awesome mics being requested. Mandy, hi, Deb. AI Advantage, sorry to cut you off. Yes, we are at our 2-hour mark. It has been another Friday. We have covered 3 interesting topics today. Amazon making an interesting entry as a platform provider into the space. We went deep into Roblox and how they're tackling the generative AI integration into their, I don't know the best way to put it other than trying to be the YouTube of 3D and create a flywheel around it. And of course, we brought it home with AutoGPT. Again, it's interesting, right? Like, it's just like in the last week, this conversation has absolutely taken over absolutely everything. And then people are unlocking new use cases with this ability to have GPT just recursively call itself. And so we heard about how that like bolsters developer velocity and certainly automates a lot of very mundane research tasks where you've had to, context switch across a bunch of different windows and, amalgamate and distill down information together. We could keep going forever, but, we do try to keep these at the 2 hour mark. So we're going to wrap things up, and I will hand it over to Heather to bring it home for us. And we will see you again here next week, right?
Yes, next Friday. Thank you all so much for hanging in there. I really appreciate it. And I know the subjects every week, just depending on what we're talking about, there's different levels of interest, and we just kind of been going with the flow to see what's happening. So I appreciate everybody that came, and I appreciate the people that tried to speak or the people that did speak, and I apologize. We are trying to manage it so that we can try to keep it within 2 hours, because sometimes we'll just kind of start rambling about, insignificant things, and everybody might as well go ahead and enjoy our weekend. But thank you all for coming again and building this community stronger to come and talk and share ideas and resources and learn something new, and even just to have a different perspective, hearing it from somebody else, someone else's story. So thank you all so much. And I'm trying to go through these comments and answer everybody, and I appreciate it. Please feel free to leave links in there and go ahead and refer to this. And again, people, if you notice somebody left a question and you know the answer, please feel free to go ahead and answer that. We can't always go back in. There's some of us that have experience and expertise something else than others. So please feel free to do that. We just want to make sure this is a place where people can come and talk freely and try to express what's going on and learn something from each other, so that there's a lot of noise out there. We just want to kind of condense it down. So thank you all for spending this week, this end of this week with us. And it's been another long week, but it'll be another one next week. So please look around and follow everybody here, or let's just check out their content at least and see what they're talking about. And if it's something that resonates with you, then, you can get engaged with that person. We have newsletters. I have a weekly newsletter. It's called Visually AI. I'll be sending that out tomorrow. And I appreciate all. So right now I have over 3,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate that. We're trying to build that up within Substack and other venues. Billawall he has a newsletter. He has a newsletter with Substack and YouTube channel and TikTok. Taylor has the sauce, and they have a YouTube channel, TikTok, Discord channel. Linus has multiple things going on, and are you teaching a course? You have a workshop or something, or course that's coming out soon?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sorry that I should have mentioned that. Yeah, I do a webinar next Monday, the 24th of April, 7 p.m. GMT +1. This is only for like businesses looking to leverage Midjourney. So very specifically, I don't want non-business like businesses only. So it's quite expensive. I have respect for that, but it's going to be nice. It's a 3-hour webinar / workshop. So yeah, go check that out. I think I have a link. I'll put a link on my profile.
Thank you. Yeah, and I saw that, and that's something that is very useful, because that's a specific use case niche that you can help for businesses to learn how to use that to stand out, to be original, and how to maximize the potential for that. And Matt has Future Tools. His newsletter is coming out today, and then he has his YouTube channel where every single day he's bringing us I don't know how, every week I say this, I don't know how he does these videos every single day. But you have anything interesting coming up, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I'm dropping a video later today with kind of all of the news that came out this week. It's going to have a recap of the AutoGPT, Chaos GPT, the Amazon news, pretty much a rundown of all of the news that came out this week. Yesterday, I actually put out a tutorial on how to actually install AutoGPT locally. So if anybody wants to learn how to do that, I put that video up yesterday. And yeah, I mean, I'm putting out videos not every day, probably about 5 days a week right now, but trying to do my best to keep everybody in the loop as often as possible.
Well, you do a good job. Thank you so much. Because even if I have to use one of those YouTube summarizers, it's so helpful to go through and then clicking on the links and the different things. I always learn something new. So thank you so much for doing that. And, everybody, again, just go out and try to spread some joy this week and see what we can do and make the best out of things. Okay. But thank you all very much. Have a good night. A good night, good day, whatever's going, wherever you're at. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next Friday.
Have a good
Cheers.
weekend,
Bye,
Thank
all.
you.
guys.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Take
bye.
care,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.